Okay.
We're starting today. Sadake.
I try to get it.
We're running a page and a few lines behind, so we'll catch up in Mitzvah Shem today. But aside in a few lines, we're on Sadake Amar Aleph. We learned the statement from Rav, very famous statement that Basar Shen Salam and Ayin, that meat that is obscured from the eye is prohibited, and we brought several proofs questioning them. The last one that we brought was Tashma. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So again, 95a. 8 lines from the bottom. Tashma, come and listen. Nimtza b'gvulin. If meat is found outside the temple in Yerushalayim, so if it's a varim, if it's entire limbs, then it's nevelis. Then it contaminates someone that touches it. Chatichas, if it's sliced pieces, then it's mutaris and it's permissible to eat. Now, Rav says that anything that's not seen is prohibited to eat. So the only way that we can resolve this is that someone was watching it. Because how can it be slices? How can you be eating it if there's no one watching it the whole time? You can't eat it. So it must be that there's someone standing there and watching it. And if you're going to say that, so Ivarim Nevelis Amai, so why is it Nevelis? Nevelis would mean that if you see someone throwing it away, then it would be Nevela. But here it's possible that someone was watching it and it just fell. So why is it, if someone's watching it, then we know the scenario, we know the circumstances. It says, Midhu Taimel Ela Rav. This whole problem that you're creating is only according to Rav, that holds that meat that's obscured from the eye is prohibited. So you want to know how Rav interprets this brisa? Rav has his own interpretation of this brisa, and the whole thing isn't the problem. It goes like this: It was stated on that Rav Amar Mutaris. Rav says when it says in the brisa it's permissible, that means the slices were permissible to eat. What does it mean it's permissible to eat? It's not permissible to eat. He says mutaris mishum nevela. Doesn't contaminate. It's anyways prohibited to eat. Why is it prohibited? Because it was obscured from the eye. So we don't have to work on this brisa to make it fit with Rav. When it says permissible to eat, how could it be permissible to eat? No one was watching it. That's not a problem. Rav never said it was permissible to eat. He just says...
I'm sorry, I'm calling Jeff Gassman.
Oh.
He wants to be called in.
Oh, very nice. When's the wedding? Tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night.
Hello.
Good morning.
All right, do me a favor. Please put your phone on mute.
We're on 95A towards the end of the page. We just said that Rav says that when the brisa says that it's permissible to eat slices that were on the street, that doesn't mean permissible to eat. That means it's permissible. It's not, doesn't contaminate, but it's still forbidden to eat. But Levi Amar Mutaris Ba'achila. But Levi says that it's even permissible to eat. Let's just discuss Rav and Levi. Rav, you see up here, this is Rav. He's the top of the Amirayim, and Levi is really the top of the Amirayim as well, but he just happens to be not on that chart. He's on the bottom of this chart. This would be Levi, so it's Rav and Levi. They're both students of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. And Levi, it's assumed that he's the father of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. That's an assumption. We don't know that for sure.
We just yesterday we discussed a case where the guy can tell you it was shafted by Jews.
Right.
And it's accepted.
Right.
It was obviously not watched by Jews 24/7.
So we were saying, according to Rav, that it didn't matter. Even if a non-Jew was watching it, it was also good. We're going to see the issue in a minute. Wait till the end of the next page. We'll see that there's another issue that we're dealing with. Now the Gemara says, V'had Rav, the original din of Rav, that basar shenasalam min ha'ayin, that meat that was obscured from your vision, that it's prohibited to eat, lav beferish itmar. That wasn't taught outright, explicitly. Rather, ela mechlala itmar. It was implied from something that occurred. The Rav Hava Yasiv Hamavra the Ishtatis. Rav was sitting by the bridge of Ishtatis. It's a place. And Chazielu Gabra,
It's the same ferry we referred to.
yeah, there's a lot of ferries today, and you'll see another one. Where did we have who didn't pay the ferry person or pay?
Yeah, we
that was
just had
Shmuel.
some story. But was this the same Ishtatus?
No, that was just Avar
No?
B'Mavra. That was Shmuel. And Shmuel was in Nardai. This is somewhere else. Chazelu Gavra. He sees this person. That he was cleaning out a head of an animal. Nafal Minei, and he's by the river. So it fell out of his hands. That's a problem. Now it's deep in the river. So Azalaisi Silta, he goes and he gets a basket. Shada, he throws it in. And Asik train, and he pulls up 2 heads.
Oh.
So listen to his comment. Amarav Abdi Nami Hachi, this happens also. So
It must have been the Hudson he was in.
that was Shaitos. That's what they said when they came from Europe. They did it. So Asrinu Nale, he said that it's forbidden. Taisus points out, Tap Taisvis, if you follow that, if you can see, he says, let's say the person would have only pulled up 1. It would have been permissible. Here we have another issue. Here we have other issues that he pulled up 2. But 1 would have been, we would have assumed that it was his. When he pulls up 2, he says, no, that's a problem. Shinunale, he says that it's prohibited. Amala Rav Kana v'Ravasi l'Rav, so Rav Kana and Ravasi, they say to Rav Kana we spoke about before that he was a student of Rav. He's the one that had to run away from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael.
Is it human heads that pull up?
No, it's animal heads, because we're talking about eating it. So,
if it's the Hudson River, like you said,
It's from
the
this
Chicago River.
from the same type animal, though, or does it apply if it's a calf and a goat head?
well, from the conversation, I'm not sure if it matters, but let's say it's the same to make the story
Okay.
better. So, the Yisura Shchichi, the Eter Lo Shchichi. What do you think? It's only non-kosher meat that's down there? Not kosher meat. Could be the other head was kosher as well. As we've been referring to here, that the sheikhdim were Jewish in many places, even though the market had non-Jewish meat sellers, but it could be that it was kosher. So Amr Lahu, Rab said the Sur Shchichi Tvei. It's more common that it should be prohibited.
Tosfos says it's the ravens could have brought it,
Right.
which is an
Now,
interesting twist.
Tosfos
here.
adds to this. That's something that we're going to see a little bit later about the ravens, but let's go one drop further, and then we'll go back to that. It says "V'chim mechlal amai." What we're referring to here is we said that Rav holds that if any meat is not being watched 100% of the time, so it becomes forbidden. He doesn't say that clearly. We just know it from this story because it wasn't being watched. So he said, well, it wasn't being watched, so we know the halach. What's the difference if he didn't say it explicitly, or this is pretty good proof as well. The Gemara says no. Over there, Pravta de'oivdei kechavim have. Over there, it was a port of non-Jews, and so therefore it was more common. There's more of a reason to say that it's not kosher because over there it was a port where there were a lot of people coming in. Now, the word port is paravta. If you drop the V sound or the double V, double U sound, so then it's left with port, right? So that was a port. Now, Tosfos says that even if most of the butchers here were Jewish, but it's possible that it came from by these ravens. That's what he means. The Sur Shchichi Tvei came from very far.
Where the butchers elsewhere weren't Jewish.
Right. Okay, Teda.
Or you don't know.
Right.
But that's what causes the suffix, you know.
Teda, the Kamalu, the Sur Shchichi Tvei, I'll bring you proof. He says, the Sur Shchichi Tvei. It's not because of watching it. It's because he says that it's more common for it to have forbidden meat. So it's not a good proof that Rav really holds that. In other words, it was implied that Rav holds that, but it's not necessarily so, because this case there's another logic for it. Ella Rav, but if we say that Rav holds that if you don't see the meat, you can't eat it, how does, according to Rav, how did Rav himself eat meat? He says, well, only when it's very fresh. No one took their eyes off it. It was immediately shechted, and he cooked it right away. If you want, you could say, that it was sealed, it was tied and sealed. Or else it was cut in a special way that you'll be able to recognize it. Rabba bar Rav Huna, like Rabba bar Rav Huna, machatech le'atlas karnasa. He would cut it in 3 corners, so we'd make a triangle meat.
Pizza.
Pizza.
It's interesting. We also have this 3-cornered meat as a simon in Baba.
That's
Sia.
exactly this thing.
That's this thing.
We remember that because Rashi has a picture of it in the thing, and that's this. This is a quote. Rabba bar Rav Huna, machatech le'atlas karnasa.
Triangle K all of a sudden is a big
The
extra.
first time. The first symbol. Okay.
Maybe that's where he got it from. The triangle,
Probably.
okay.
Or possible.
Isn't that interesting?
All the
So
O's
careful
were taken
not
up.
to eat, not to drink water that was left overnight, because maybe a snake came through it and put poison in it. Or we're eating meat we found on the side of the road.
You're right.
Is
That's
this why they
interesting.
used to put those metal tabs on chickens?
We still do.
Oh, do they still?
Yeah.
I don't see them when I get them from you.
Just buy a whole chicken.
A whole chicken, yeah.
Yes, these also aren't kosher, so that's why you don't see them.
No, stop it. Come on.
You have to buy the whole chicken. You'll see them. They're there.
I always buy the
Where
whole
did it
chicken.
go?
Did they tie
Which
up
part
the
of it?
ends?
It went on the wing. Where did they put it
Put
on?
them somewhere.
I haven't seen them lately, to be honest.
It's interesting. Rav, Havikazel lebei Rav Chanan Chasnei. Rav was going to his son-in-law Rav Chanan. The novelists, that they write historical fictions or whatever, they could play with this, because we know that Rav's wife wouldn't make for him what he wanted to make. And they would put in that he was going for a meal, because his daughter maybe would make him some
Why wouldn't
something
his
to eat.
wife make?
His wife would sort of like taunt him, and if he wanted this, she would make that.
He would ask for legumes, and she would serve him lentils.
What was
and
the
vice
reason?
versa, because she was vexatious, says the Sefer.
Oh, wow.
You know what that means?
That means she was a big V.
Right. So the son, so he used to tell the son, go and ask mom to cook lentils. So he would ask lentils, and she would cook beans. And the son saw that there was this problem going on. So the son started to tell, he said, go cook lentils. He says, Tati's asking for beans. So she would cook lentils, and he would get what he wanted. So after this went on for a
reverse
while, he said
psychology.
to his wife, like, what changed? And it came out that the son was flipping the request.
Right.
He told his son, don't do this, because you're gonna, it's training you to be a liar. So you don't
Right,
wanna,
interesting story. Wow.
even though I'm getting what I want, you shouldn't get used to lying.
Very good. So Rav is now traveling to his son-in-law.
I don't want the $1 million from you. I'm telling you now. I don't want it.
Rav Chanan. Did we have recently Rav's grandsons? We recently had Rav's grandson, Rabbana this and Rabbana that. Remember when we said there's 3 great people, 2 of them are in Bavel, 2 are in Israel. That was Rav's grandsons. Here we have his son-in-law. Chazi Mavra de Kasilape. What does he see coming towards him? The ferry. Amar, he says, Mabra Kasi Lapa Yom Lagav. This is going to be a good day. This is going to be a special holiday, which means tonight when I get there's going to be something special to eat. This is a good omen. Because it's like right when you get to the bus stop, the bus is pulling up right for you. It's like, oh, this is a special thing. So Azal, he gets up, Kama Bava. He comes to the door, and Eidik,
Hold on. Okay.
Eidik,
Everybody stand up.
Bebasa Dadasha. He glances through. He glances through the crack in the door, and Chazi Chiyusa D'Italia. He sees an animal that's hanging. That means that was, I guess, being skinned or something. So there's some sort of meat was being prepared. Taraf Abava. He knocks on the door, on the gate. Nafuk Asu Kuli Almalape. Everyone comes out. Asa Tabchanami. And even the butcher that was inside also comes out. So Rav, everyone's coming out to greet Rav. Meanwhile, Rav is staring at the meat, not making eye contact with the people. He's busy looking at the meat that's hanging there. Rav doesn't take his eyes off the meat. Amalu, he says, Eichu hashta, if this is where you do what's happening now, you're feeding prohibited food to the children of my daughter. He tells his son-in-law. Right. So lo yachol Rav mi'ahu bisra. Rav didn't eat from that meat. It's my timer. Why not? If it's because it was concealed, obscured from the eye. So it wasn't obscured because Rav was watching it. Ela denachish. Rather, it was superstition. And because Rav said that I'm going to get a good meal tonight because the ferry showed up, he didn't want to do anything
That bothered me
superstitious.
from the beginning. Yeah.
It's like a black cat, the opposite of a black cat or something. He didn't want to act upon that.
It's called divination or something?
Divination.
That's what it says there.
Where it says, Bama Rav. Rav says, Kol nichosh, she'ena ke'elezer eved Avram m'kenisim ben shol eina nichosh. Any nichosh which is not similar to Eliezer eved Avram and Yonasim ben Shal is not really nichosh.
Excuse me, what's nichosh?
Nichosh is divination, the acting on the superstitions.
Google minds.
Now, it's a little bit unclear. What's the issue? You see, we're going to create a problem here for ourselves, because the way we say that what is considered real divination, which is forbidden, we say real divination that's forbidden is like these two special people that they did it the way they did it. That's the one that's forbidden, and we're going to be stuck. So how did they do it? So what it means is that they must have had some sort of excuse for doing it. But if you did it the way they did it, which is, if this and this happens, well, by Eliezer, he says, if she serves me water and my camel's water, then this is going to be the one that I'm going to bring back as a wife to Yitzchak. And Yonasan, there was this battle with the Plishtim. They were very outnumbered. The Plishtim were many thousands, and they only had 600 men. And Yonasan tells the person that was carrying his weapons, he says, let's go up and let's see what we can do ourselves. So he goes, he tells the boy that's with him, says, when we get to the soldiers, if they tell us stop where you are, so then it's a bad sign. But if they tell us come up to us, so then that means that the fact that they're saying come up to us, that means that we're for sure going to win. And so he does this sign, he goes over there and they say, come up to us. So he goes up and they won. And so that was considered divination because he gave the sign what's going to happen. If this happens, then that's what we'll do. So Rav didn't say anything, that if the boat is there, then I'm going to eat. Rav didn't say anything. I'm going to go if it's not. This wasn't real nichosh. The boat was there. You're going to say now he's not allowed to do anything? Nothing. It was nothing. He didn't do anything like that. It was a nice sign. Oh, lucky me. So Ella, rather, Sudas Rishus Havi. It was considered, it was a Sudas Rishus. It wasn't a mitzvah meal. Rav Rav didn't take enjoyment from just a permissible meal. It had to be a mitzvah meal. Now, Rashi says, why was it a permissible meal? Because it was the daughter of a Talmud Chacham that was marrying an Amaretz, an ignoramus, and that wasn't considered a mitzvah meal. Okay, there was a Rebbe Tzaddik HaKayan of Lublin, that he would fast every day. And then his Rebbe told him, I forget if it was the Kotzker or the Ishbitzer, so he told him, no, you have to eat. So he didn't know what to do. He should fast, because he made this hachlata, he was going to fast every day, he was only going to eat in the evening, and then his Rebbe told him he should eat every day. So he figured out a solution. Every day he would finish a Masechta. So he'd eat at the Sudas Mitzvah. So Taisvus over here says that how did Eliezer Eved Avram do this? That Eliezer Eved Avram waited to hear who she was before he actually gave it to her. If he would have just relied on the sign itself, if she tells me I'll give you to drink, and immediately he gave her these rings and bracelets and all of that, then that would have been divination. But first he said, who is your father? And then she said, and then he gave it to her. Even though in the Psukim it doesn't work out like that, but Ein Mukdam Mocha B'Torah, the Torah is not in chronological order. That's what Tyson says. And then Taisva says, what about Yonasan ben Shaul? How was he allowed to commit that sin and use this divination? If they tell us this, then we'll do that. So Taisva says that he wasn't really relying on this. He said that he wanted to have the person that was with him, that was carrying the arms, be encouraged. So he made the sign so that this person should think, oh my gosh, we're for sure going to win. So to add strength to the battle.
Wait, so I understand that, but why was the Eliezer showing
Because
that
there was
divination?
logic in it as well.
Oh, because of the logic, okay. I got you.
And
Because he
asked
made
her-
sure that she was from the suitable family.
Okay. Rav Badik B'Mavra.
So he didn't eat, even though
He didn't eat, but we didn't say it was because of the divination.
he eat because of the optional feast business. It was not
Right.
a mitzvah feast. So why did he say it's going to be a good meal when he crossed? When he said, when he
Well,
said
there was a
ferry?
good meal there,
But he didn't eat
but he
it.
didn't end up eating it. That was his choice.
Back to lentils.
Right, back to lentils. Okay,
Right.
so the Gemara says that Rav would use the ferry as a sign if he should go. If he got there and he had to wait, he said, "No, I'm not going to go." If the ferry was there, that means it was going to be good, and he didn't consider this divination. Shmuel Badich B'Sifra. Shmuel would use a sefer. He would open up a book and he would look at what it says. This is a source. Originally, when people were using Igris, years ago, it became very popular. This was the source for that, because it could be divination. So you could ask that question, but you can't just open a book and decide what you're going to do. But and there's sources for this earlier, but this is a source that it's okay to look in the Torah and to see if this is.
I knew a
something
person
positive.
who used to do that
With the
because
Chumash,
that's
and-
how he was taught from some
Yeah, the Gra, but-
Kabbalists in Israel.
Yeah, there's this thing called the Gerel Agra. He would use an
yeah.
Amsterdam Chumash. You would open it 7 times, and you would make decisions based on
He
it.
opened it, I think, 3 times.
Uh-huh.
I mean, whatever.
The
Rav Ye-
story with they went to Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Berditchev to ask for a bracha
Ah.
for the Alter Rebbe,
Right.
and the person who went couldn't remember the Alter Rebbe's mother's name, so
Yeshever.
so the Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Berditchev opened up the Chumash, and it says that there was shever, there was corn in Mitzrayim,
Right.
in Mitzrayim.
Right.
So he says shever Shner ben Rivka. So
Right.
he figured out the Alter Rebbe's mother's name to say Mishaber for him.
Rav Yechanan Badak Biyanuka. Rav Yechanan would ask a child. He would ask a child, "What did you learn today in yeshiva?" Like Mordechai, and I read this article from who was the first chief rabbi in England? Nathan Marcus Adler. That was his name. Rabbi Adler was the first. Messina Laguerre. He was the. He wrote on Targum Onkelos. He wrote that the explanation for this is that people wanted to know what was the opinion of the rabbis. So they would go ask the child, "What did your Rebbe teach you today in yeshiva?" And they would say a pasuk, and they would get information of what's their opinion. So this Rabbi Adler was saying that this wasn't the type of divination. This was just looking for their political opinion. However, we're going to see that there's a problem with this. Gemara doesn't fit perfectly with that interpretation. Kuli shani de Rav, all while Rav was alive, havikasav lu Rabbi Yochanan lekadam Rabbeinu shebebavel. Rabbi Yochanan would write questions to him, and in the letter, he would greet Rav with our rabbi of Bavel, our teacher in Bavel, in Babylonia, Kinach Nafshe, after Rav passed away. He says to our colleague in Bavel. So Shmuel says, Amar, Layadili Midi de Rabbiana, I don't know anything more than him that I should be the teacher. I must know more things than Rabbi Yochanan, I should still be the teacher. So Kasav, he wrote in Shadale Ibura de Shitin Shani. He sent him a calendar of 60 years, which was a big feat. And he sends it to Rabbi Yochanan. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Hashta Chushmana Ba'alma Yada. He knows mathematics. Okay, big deal. That's I'm not impressed. So Kasav, he wrote in Shadale Tleisa Gamle Sveki Treifta. If you read this literally, it means 13 camels of carrying questions. Must be like notebooks full of questions about Treifa. One of the other versions here says that it was 13 pages. Rashi says, Tracer Gamli says Labdafka. Tracer is 12. Rashi has Tracer. It's supposed to be Tleisar, it's supposed to be 13. But the other version here said that it was pages of. Okay, Amar, he says, Isli Rav. Where's that? This says Tracer. Oh, and on the side the Rashash fixes it to Tleisar. Interesting. Oh, this is where I saw in Taisvus. Rabbeinu Chanal, thank you. He says Gvili. Pages. There was 12 or 13 pages. How could the Rashash fix it? The Taisvus in the inside says Tracer again. So,
Kute Rashi is Tleisa.
What do you have there?
The Kute Rashi is Tleisa.
Tleisar.
Here it says place already in the text.
Oh yeah. No, the problem is in this version it has Tresa. The Aramaic for two is tre, even though in the Latin that would sound like three. Tri is something that's three, but in Aramaic tre is two, and tlesar is tle, tlas is three. I don't know why they had such a confusing. They get those numbers should be the same.
The Rashi in Shabbos actually says Tleisar Gamle.
Okay, good.
And
So
and
that fits
then
with
what's
that.
interesting, and then there it quotes Chullin, where we are the Chain Tleisar. So when you go over there,
It comes back to
mentions
here.
back to here, both of them.
No, it's just on his computer and spoken.
The Shashbeh.
So Rav Yochanan says, I have a teacher in Bavel. Ezel Achzei, let me go see him. He wants to go to see Shmuel. Amalei Yenuka goes outside, he talks to a child. He says, Psaikli Psukecha. Tell me what you learned today. Teach me the pasuk that you learned today. And Amalei, he says, Shmuel Meis, quotes him the pasuk in Shmuel. Shmuel died, just for clarification purposes. Shmuel is here. You see, this is the Tanoim. This is earlier. This is like the end of. This is over here is where the destruction of the temple was. This is after the destruction of the temple. It continues down here. This must be about 250 years 300 years after the destruction of the temple, and here's Shmuel. And Rabbi Yochanan is over here, and he wants to go visit Shmuel in Babylonia. Now, Rabbi Yochanan goes outside, and he sees a child. He says, tell me what you learned in yeshiva. So the child says, in the Navi, there was, Shmuel was a different Shmuel. He was the son of Chana. Chana didn't have children, and she has this son Shmuel. And Shmuel wrote the book of Shmuel, but in the middle of the book he dies, and it was finished by others. But in the middle of the book of Shmuel Aleph, it says, Shmuel Mace, that Shmuel dies. So the child comes out and says, Shmuel died. Now it's a different Shmuel, but he hears Shmuel died, so he says, Amar Shmamina Nach Nafshi, the Shmuel, it must be that Shmuel died. Now listen to how this Gemara concludes. This is incredible. V'loihi, but it's not so. Loi shachiv Shmuel. Shmuel didn't actually die. They just didn't want Rabbi Yochanan to be disturbed from heaven, that he should have to travel. So the message that he got from God was, don't go. And it came along this way. Now, according to Rabbi Adler, it was the other sages didn't want him to go. That's how he would interpret it.
The other sages were by Shmuel's side? Or
here in Israel, where Rabbi Yochanan's asking, he says, what did you learn in yeshiva today?
Right.
So, but that's not how it's interpreted in Rashi.
So he thought it was divination.
Right, he thought it was a message from Hashem.
Yeah, right, and you're allowed to do
I
that.
don't know where I
yeah,
saw
you were.
this.
It's-
Right.
But it wasn't.
No,
But really, it was a message from Hashem, but it wasn't the fact
Right.
that Shmuel had died. It was a message that he shouldn't go.
You can't put in the class divination either, because with divination we all...
It's always
the
forbidden.
No, but not just that. The person said, if this, then
Right.
that. And that's not what happened
Right.
here. Here he just asked someone, and he, afterwards, after the fact, that's what,
Right.
He really
post
said in his
facto.
mind, anything the kid says, I'm going to go by.
But he didn't say that.
Why do you think he asked him? Just
Right.
saying
Stam
that-
Azai, that's how they knew, the rabbi said, the political, where's the rabbi holding this and that.
Yeah, there's different interpretations of how to use this. What I saw in the Darkei Tshuva, who was talking about looking in a sefer, was that it sounded like you were allowed to actually say that if there's a good pasuk or a good something good, then that's what it looked like.
Still weather report for the day. Weather or not.
Tanya
Tanya.
was taught in a brisa. Reb Shimon ben Elazar Eimer. Reb Shimon ben Elazar is a student of Reb Meir. Reb Meir on the Tanaim chart of Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says, Bayis tinik v'isha, a house, a child, and a wife, even though it's not divination,